The train station was buzzing with hurried footsteps, tired commuters, and the hiss of brakes as another train rolled in. Ethan Ward, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, adjusted his cufflinks absent-mindedly while scanning through emails on his phone. To everyone else, he was untouchable, the kind of man who carried power in his stride. But as he stepped onto the platform, his eyes caught something that didn't fit into the rhythm of the crowd. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7, stood near the vending machines, her socks damp from the puddles on the floor. Her hair clung to her cheeks in wet strands, and her teddy bear looked as worn and tired as she did. For a moment, Ethan considered walking past. He wasn't a man who stopped for strangers. His world was contracts, acquisitions, and meetings that never ended. But then the child lifted her head. Her big brown eyes met his, glistening with unshed tears, and she whispered words that shattered the protective wall around his heart. "I don't have a papa. Can you be my daddy forever?" Ethan froze, his phone slipping slightly in his hand. He'd faced boardrooms of hostile investors, but never words so raw and vulnerable. Something inside him, buried deep for years, stirred painfully. Ethan crouched down to her level, his expensive shoes squeaking slightly on the damp tile. "Hey," he said gently, his deep voice softening in a way it hadn't in years. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" The little girl hugged her teddy tighter, rocking on her small heels. "Mama's at the hospital. She said she'd come back soon, but she's been gone a long time." Her voice cracked and she lowered her gaze. "She told me to be brave, but I'm not brave without her." Ethan's chest ached. He didn't even know this child, yet her words pierced through his carefully constructed armor. He wanted to ask a dozen questions: where her family was, why she was alone. But the sight of her trembling hand stopped him. "And your papa?" he asked carefully. She shook her head, her little voice barely a whisper. "He went away. Mama says he's not coming back." Then her eyes rose to his again, wide and pleading. "But maybe you can. You look like a daddy." The platform noise seemed to fade around them. Ethan should have stood up, walked away, convinced himself this wasn't his business. But the way her tiny fingers brushed against his sleeve, hesitant, as if testing whether he'd push her away, made his heart squeeze. "Come on," he said softly, holding out his hand. "Let's get you warm first. Then we'll find your mama." Her small hand slid into his, fragile but full of trust, and Ethan felt something he hadn't in years, a sense of purpose beyond himself. The ride to the hospital was silent except for the hum of Ethan's sleek black car. The little girl sat in the passenger seat, her small fingers tracing the stitching of the leather as though afraid to relax. Ethan kept glancing at her between traffic lights, wondering how someone so tiny could carry loneliness so heavy. When they arrived, the fluorescent lights of the hospital lobby washed over them. The girl tugged on his sleeve, leading him with surprising certainty down a hallway. At last she stopped in front of a room where a frail woman lay hooked to IVs. "Mama," the girl whispered, her voice trembling as she ran to the bedside. The woman stirred, her pale face breaking into a tired smile. "Sweetheart, you came back." Her eyes fluttered open fully, and then landed on Ethan. A flicker of alarm passed across her face, but it was quickly replaced with confusion. "He helped me, Mama," the little girl explained quickly, hugging her mother's arm. "I was scared, but he said he'd bring me to you." The woman's lips parted, her voice hoarse. "Sir, I don't know who you are, but thank you." Ethan nodded, unexpectedly nervous under her fragile gaze. "No thanks needed. She was alone. I couldn't leave her." His own voice cracked slightly, betraying more emotion than he intended. The girl clutched her teddy bear, then looked between them. "Mama, I told him he could be my daddy." The words hung in the sterile hospital air, heavy and fragile. The mother's eyes widened, shimmering with tears. She looked at Ethan, searching for his reaction, and Ethan, powerful, lonely CEO Ethan Ward, felt something inside him break open. Hours later, when visiting hours were nearly over, Ethan found himself sitting at the edge of the hospital bed. The little girl had fallen asleep, curled against her mother, her tiny hand still clutching Ethan's sleeve even in dreams. The woman's voice was faint but steady. "She doesn't talk to strangers. Not since her father left. But with you, it's different." Ethan swallowed hard, staring at the sleeping child. "I don't know why. I've never been good at family. But when she looked at me like I could matter to her, I couldn't walk away. The mother's eyes softened, though shadows of worry lingered there. You don't owe us anything. You've already done more than most would. Ethan turned to her, his jaw tightening with unspoken conviction. Maybe I don't owe you, but I need this. His gaze dropped to the little girl's hand clinging to him. She asked me for something no one's ever asked me for before, and I don't think I can forget it. For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the steady beeping of machines. Then the mother whispered, almost afraid to believe, "Are you saying?" "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," Ethan admitted, his voice thick. "But I do know this, if she'll have me, if you'll let me. I want to try." The woman's tears slipped down her cheeks, but their